Bacterial infection causes woman's fingers to turn black after housework. Jiang did after finishing her housework. However, a few hours later, she noticed that her fingers were turning black. This was a cause for concern, and she immediately went to the hospital. The doctors were shocked to see that her fingers had turned black due to a bacterial infection that had entered her body through the small cuts on her hands. Despite their best efforts, they were unable to save her fingers, and they had to be amputated. With all the potential dangers out there in the world, with all the health issues, injuries, and violence around the planet, the Earth can be a scary place sometimes. And just when you think the world isn't so frightening after all, life throws you another fastball, and there's something new to worry about. Thanks to the advent of modern medicine and the ease of accessing information on diseases and illnesses, humanity is currently enjoying its longest life expectancies, safest daily lives, and most comfortable lifestyles in the history of mankind. Small cuts during housework lead to shocking injury for Chinese woman. This does not, however, make us invulnerable. This viral story proves that in the Hubei province of China, a new story about a 53-year-old woman identified only as Mrs. Jiang shows us that even in our modern, health-conscious era, horrors still lurk around every corner, and the vulnerability of our bodies can be exposed at any second. At the time of her injury, Mrs. Jiang wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. In fact, she was simply doing a bit of light housework. At first glance, for an otherwise healthy woman in her 50s, this wouldn't really be a cause for concern, and neither would the small cuts Mrs. Jiang found on her hands after finishing her tasks. After all, we all get plenty of small, insignificant cuts during the course of our everyday life, and we often think nothing of it. We sometimes don't even realize at the same time that we've been hurt, only to see a scratch or scab sometime later. At most, should we notice the cut or scrape immediately, we typically give it a wash and go on our merry way. To no one's surprise, that's precisely what Mrs. Jiang did after finishing her housework. However, a few hours later, she noticed that her fingers were turning black. This was a cause for concern, and she immediately went to the hospital. The doctors were shocked to see that her fingers had turned black due to a bacterial infection that had entered her body through the small cuts on her hands.